This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I see everybody's here, it looks like. We'll go ahead and start. So this is the February 3rd, 2021 Gerhardt City Council. And first off, is there any declaration of conflict of interest?
Nope.
I have none.
Okay.
None here.
Was that Brent as well?
Oh, I just said no conflicts here either.
Thank you. So we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for January 6th, 2021.
I just had a small addition. It looks like some kind of verb was left out on about the third or fourth paragraph. It says Mayor Cochran received a request to bring back the additional visitor section, and she would like to, if the council agrees. So should it be like to know if, or like to see if?
Well, I would like to do it. I would like to bring it back if the council agrees.
Okay, then forget it. It's fine.
The word continues probably needs to be there.
I move we
yeah,
approve the meeting minutes for January 6th.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. The Planning Commission report. That was a written report submitted by Carol. Do we need to go over that in detail, or are there any?
I would like to show that it needs to be corrected as Mayor Brown is not Mayor Brown, it's Mayor Cochran.
Right, and forgive me, I was thinking of another staff report that Carol did.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Is the one you mean to talk about is from the chairperson, Virginia Didium?
Yes.
Yes. So that was what's on the table right now. And I wasn't sure if you were planning to talk about the one I wrote.
I did not have that like on the agenda per se.
That's fine.
But
we can do it next month.
you have a lot going on.
That's the point. That was the main point, because the Planning Commission is not meeting in February, but I wanted you to make sure that you knew how much is going on in planning right now. And if you have a chance to look at the report, it gives you a basic status on what all those projects are. There are 7 of them or 6 of them. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime.
I apologize. I'm not finding that. Is it hidden in my packet somewhere, or did I?
I don't have it either.
That came out by email, I believe.
I don't recall getting it.
It's fine. Christy was planning to put it on next month. I think it got emailed to you like yesterday, and that's why nobody has seen it. So let's just leave it at that. And take a look at it if you see your email, or wait for the next packet, and the information will be the same.
Okay, any
Okay.
other comments? Any other comments on Ginny's Planning Commission report other than we'll update the mayor heading? Or give her some feedback on that, or? Mayor's report. So other than what you got in our sizable agenda, I worked with the other mayors on a public service announcement for trying to just have people reinforcing the COVID public health measures with the idea of trying to get people back to school. I think we sent that out on a blog with the video, and there was something in the paper on that. We did have several meetings trying to come up with the language for the ELK, the Oregon Solutions ELK project. I do want to report that Bill Eddy has given us notice of intent to retire this year, and we will be talking about that at the council level in a little more detail at our executive committee, which is going to be held before the March city council meeting. I think we've got it scheduled for 5:30. As Carol already noted, the Highway 101 planning project, we did work on membership from the public for that. A number of private citizens and business owners on Highway 101 are going to be a part of that committee. Also, some work being done on the fire station due diligence report, appraisal of the property at High Point, the judicial review moving forward, and some other additions have been done to that report, which is still a work in progress. Parks Master Plan, I did see something today. We've had over 300 responses from the public, and that's a per family report or a response is what we asked for. So over 300 families have responded with their thoughts on parks. So that will be very helpful. The business committee I attended and did appoint one other member, Andrew Stein, and I'll let Brent do any further reporting on that committee. I believe they are looking at one or two additional members. I attended the Cedar board meeting last week. They did a lot of recapping of 2020 and highlighted some of the work that they were able to do at bringing money from the COVID relief to the county. CERT did not have a meeting, but we did send out links to a conference that the Nehalem Valley group did on psychological first aid. I did some follow-up following Jeff Bowman's change in protocol for primary mental health calls, where in the interim before mental health folks can arrive on scene, he is taking a step back from being the first responder on those. He did assure me that he would always be monitoring those calls, and if you will, I just describe it as down the street, kind of out of sight, but monitoring while waiting for mental health. And so I did follow that up with a good conversation with Amy Baker at Clatsop Behavioral Health. Basically what she said to me was she appreciated the support that I was talking to her about, and I've talked with Chad to really want to be able to carve out, even if it's just a little bit of money from our next budget, to be able to swing that over to Clatsop Behavioral. ultimately what they would like to do to have better response times for the county is have a North County and a South County ability to respond from both locations. Right now, it's one person on call for the entire county, you know, shared amongst 5 or 7 people. I'm not sure how many. There's one person on call. This would be having 2 people on call. Ultimately, that's what she would like to see. As I said, I did mention that to Chad. We had a short conversation about the budgeting process and possibly being able to work something in there. And I also did an interview with OPB, their police reporter. So I don't know what shape that will take, but you know, it would be nice if this county could make that happen. And I think with your concurrence, I would like to move forward on that project and just solicit a letter to the other mayors and ask them to join what I hope Gerhart will do, as well as the county commission, who is really probably the main budgeting group for behavioral health services in the county. I did do a little bit of research also on the governor's budget, and a lot of the governor's budget is moving toward rehab. So it's a little bit different niche than just like if you think about somebody who's suicidal. So it's a little different. Anyway, that's all I have on my list. But I would like feedback from any of the counselors on if the behavioral health is something that we, you know, should I continue to write letters and advocate?
I would back you on that. If I could do anything, I would be willing to help out.
No, I think it's a great idea. I actually, in response to the chief's initiative, I talked to Dolores Sullivan, who's a mental health practitioner in the C1 zone in downtown Gerhart, and asked her what she thought of the chief's initiative, and she fully supported it, didn't think it was appropriate for police to be responding to non-violent, non-criminal mental health issues. And she actually volunteered her services to be a resource for the Gerhart police to go on a call if her professional services were required. And she said that she thought she could recruit several other Gerhart mental health practitioners that would be willing to be on call. So as a not as a replacement to the county mental health, but a supplement to it because of the wide geographic coverage and the limited available staffing.
And Mayor Paulina, I talked to you about this, and I had a little tiny chat with Chad about it today. And it's not always easy to tell if an issue is a mental health issue or a police issue. So I would be glad to have somebody in the South County to help us figure these things out. So I'm totally supportive of you writing letters and getting the mayors to join.
So if I wrote a letter, it's okay if I say there's a consensus of the council, and I'm not sure that Dan is on the call right now.
Yeah, I am in support of it.
Okay, thank you. I don't see you on this list of people, but technology, I guess. All right, thank you all very much for the feedback. Moving on to council reports. Harry Smith,
I have nothing at this time.
and going down my list here. Rita,
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Brent,
Yes, ma'am. I'll give a little additional information on the Small Business Committee. As you may know, Matt Brown has completely stepped back from the committee. He said he needed a little break from city issues. So I'm getting a better appreciation for that coming on the council. So we did feel the need to add one additional person fairly quickly. So after consulting with the mayor and Jenny Frank, the chair of the committee, asked Andrew Stein, who's a small business owner, runs a home business, and he's very plugged into the Chamber of Commerce activities in Seaside. He'll be a great addition to the committee. The committee would like to have a more formalized process for recruiting new members. So we're going to create some kind of a short form application to explain why they would be a good addition to the committee. And we'd like to get a representative in the C1 zone and the C2 zone of Gerhardt. And let's see, we've done a little bit of tweaking to make it a little more tweaking of the city's website to make it a little more clearer as to where the Small Business Committee's resources are going to be. And we're going to be doing a survey. We're in the process of converting the paper draft to SurveyMonkey, so that will be going out hopefully in the next few weeks, by the end of the month, certainly. And that's about it.
thank you, Brent. And Dan?
I have nothing.
Okay, we're going to move on to city officer reports. Chief of Police, are you there? Do you want to give a report? There was a data report that went out by email for the chief of police, some statistics, and also from the fire chief, some statistics. City treasurer, we had the revenue and expense, budget versus actual. It's basically a cumulative 7 months. Any comments on that? Okay, and next is city attorney, Peter.
I'm going to keep this really brief because I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a lot of talking later. We're proceeding with the Shannon Smith case where we're trying to get our liens. She is represented by Dean Alterman, who some of you might remember from our short-term rentals saga. The bank, of course, is represented by lawyers. I don't know that any of the other lien holders are represented. Very novel facts, and I think a lot of questions about why the mortgage company did what it did, or why the loan company did what it did. But I feel like our lien, of course, is earlier in time than any of these actions, and based on my reading of case law that could be relevant, because again, these are such unique facts that there's not a whole lot out there. I feel like we're in pretty good shape. Though some very novel legal questions, so I will have to wait and see.
Mhm. That's all? Chad?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. Just a few things. The ridge path, Duncan's Crossing, has gotten moved a little bit more forward. They've installed some of the beams across, and once weather kind of turns and then Public Works is staffed again, we're going to take another shot at that. We're probably looking at the week of the 16th. So keep an eye on the blog. There's going to be some volunteer opportunities for that. Emergency cash program. Let's see here. We still don't have anybody taking. We still have a few barrels left, is what I'd like to say, in regards to the donated barrels. So folks that otherwise needed a free one, there are 6 more available, and we're going to blog at the end of the month again. And just if you know of anybody who might make use of that, please let us know. Fire station update. Paulina took care of most of that. We are also updating the construction cost estimates right now, and those should be ready for us within a week and a half. And we're getting that report ready for council review, as Mayor Cochran noted. We're still, for grant updates, we're slowing down a little bit there, but we're still doing the work. We're waiting on a Pacific Power Foundation community grant, and the board is meeting and reviewing that application over the next couple of months. So that was a request for $10,000 for the Ridge Path. Budget committee, we'll be discussing the budget later in the meeting, but we are seeking to replace 2 vacancies on the budget committee. Councillor Warren, now being a councillor and still on the committee, but from a different angle, it will need to be replaced. And Judy Schechter, she had to resign for personal reasons, and so we'll be looking for 2 positions, and we'll be noting that on the blog very soon. Council work session, we have March 30th, which is the 5th Tuesday of the month. So mark your calendars for 6:30. Among other things, the employee handbook is on the agenda so far. And we're still waiting for a few rules of the council acknowledgements. So for you councilors, don't hesitate to drop those off at City Hall or mail or email them to Christy as soon as you can. And that's all that I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is correspondence, and I do see this is a follow-up that I put in. I dug out of my old emergency preparedness stuff. It's a just an organizational chart. Should we ever want to spread our wings a little bit and have a little bit more going on besides the CERT team? Thinking maybe about Medical Reserve Corps and an oversight committee just dealing with emergency preparedness. So that's just for your info at this point. I think we got a lot of irons in the fire right now, and maybe later in the year we can think about doing something like that. Any other comments on any of the other correspondence from anyone? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to keep moving on. This is the visitors section, and I apologize for not highlighting that at the beginning. But if someone would like to speak at the visitors section, please email Chad Sweet at cityofgerhart.com, and we will hear what you have to say. And Chad, do you have any emails? Are you saying no? No emails?
No, just double checking, but no, not at this time. I don't, Mayor.
So I will, I'm just going to quickly call out the people I see here on the call. Darcy, and you can unmute yourself if you'd like to have a few minutes. And next is Tom Thies. And next is Chris Bell. And BB Michelle. Claire McIntyre. Carmen Four. I don't see anybody turning their light on, so I guess that's our visitor section for this this time. And we did put on the agenda the yes.
Mayor, there are 2 callers. They're unmuted. So if a caller 2 or caller 3 would like to speak.
Thank you,
If
Christy.
Yeah, if not, then I'll mute them again.
Okay, so for some reason I'm not seeing the callers on the screen tonight.
Yeah, Mayor, they're on the very bottom of the screen. You may have to scroll down depending on the screen size of your computer, but the only other people that are on there, Dan Jesse's on that bottom row, and so is Manuel Padilla with Organ Solutions, and then caller 2 and caller 3.
Okay, yeah, mine stops at Manuel. So, okay, ordinances and resolutions. We have ordinance 929 C1 text amendments. So at the January City Council meeting, council motioned to approve the Planning Commission's attached proposal to the city's comprehensive plan C1 zone text. Council discussed further amendment of neighborhood cafe language, and the motion passed as amended. Ordinance number 929, Exhibit A, reflects the amended language. Council options: read once by title only, or do nothing. And you can see there's a recommended motion. Would anyone like to make a motion?
So I move that we approve the reading of ordinance 929 by title only for the second time.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, Chad, do you want to go ahead and read that then?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Oh, excuse me, is that Dan?
No, it was not.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Sorry about that. So ordinance 929, an ordinance amending the City of Deer Heart zoning ordinance, section 3.4, C1, neighborhood commercial zone. Thank you.
Thank you. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? No.
Nay.
I got 4 yes, 1 no. Is that correct? Is that what everybody else heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next is a resolution, and the packet is titled Resolution 953 Clatsop Plains Elk Collaborative declaration of cooperation. And the action is to consider approval of the Clatsop Plains Elk Collaborative Declaration of Cooperation. I just have a couple comments I want to make. Do we need a motion to discuss this? All right. So I just want to be really conservative with what we're doing here tonight. My suggestions are I'd like to rename the resolution to the Clatsop Plains Elk Collaborative Gerhardt Elk Plan. And what I'm trying to do is create a little bit of separation between this resolution and the 15-page multi-jurisdictional document that's still a draft. In addition to that, on the resolution that Peter has drawn up, I felt that there was one other bullet that needed to be added. And that is, it is about education of the public. The reading is to collaborate with other cities and entities in ongoing educational efforts to residents and visitors related to safely living with elk in the community. Because I just really feel like that's an important piece that we know we need to do and need to continue to do. Yeah, other comments, or do we have a motion to do something with this?
I like your addition, Mayor. We might want to phrase it in terms of living more safely rather than living safely, because some disaster still could happen. We don't want to imply to residents or visitors that it's completely safe, because it's not. Anytime you're with a 1,000, 1,500 pound animal, it has the potential for disaster. And I just wanted to make sure, Peter, this resolution that's before us is something that you drafted and you're comfortable with the language not being internally contradictory like the original proposal was that you responded to so well earlier?
Yeah, and I apologize. There are a couple of punctuation errors. I think probably it's the best evidence that I need reading glasses, because I don't normally put like two periods next to each other. So just to clarify something that I think is important to understand about the 15-page plan. So if you look at in our packet, page 12 out of 24, which is the recommendation section, when you read that, it seems as if they're best practices that have been fully vetted and identified. And then in the original one, we were asked to adopt those. And one of the things that I learned is that, because my question is, well, where are those recommendations? And they haven't been developed. And so one of the things that I think it's important for you guys to note is that if we're going to take on these issues, in some respects, we're starting from scratch. So like, if we're identifying the best practices for fencing, we're not starting with best practices that have been identified by the subcommittee. We would be doing our own research. And then some of the stuff that, you know, I think that when you talk about opening our comprehensive plan, and then collaborating with Clatsop County on their comprehensive plan, it's important to note that that would be a more than 1 year process in all likelihood. I mean, that would be a major, major undertaking. And so as we look at the resolution that I drafted, which is the brief list of actions, what those really are in some respects is, those will be council priorities for the next year. Because they're going to be pretty time consuming. The ones that were on the original one that I thought maybe my recommendation would be we not pursue them. My concern about establishing the out corridor is any time that we're, taking essentially the ability of people to utilize their property in some manner, or saying that people may not be able to build there. They're not just kind of takings concerns, but that also could have an impact on our buildable lands inventory, which we've just gone through. So if we're taking lands out of the mix and saying this is the out share, then there are a lot of ripple effects that go from that. So I think the collaboration with other stakeholders is a really good thing, and it sounds like there were a lot of meetings that happened and people shared their views on things. But I look at things from the perspective of legal risk, and I once was at Luba arguing whether residential meant a person's primary residence or it was a type of a property type. And fortunately, we had the record, both from case law and the record from our council, to get that interpretation that we needed and get Luba to approve it. But these words made a huge difference. And there was a lot of language in the 15-pager that made me really uncomfortable, particularly from a land use perspective. And so I think my recommendation, of course, is that we step back, we really narrow the focus on things that are within our control, and then we can have those discussions on those items. But ones that are major undertakings are one where we're ceding control of our comp plan process to Clatsop County or our own code to other jurisdictions. That just gives me a lot of heartburn from a legal perspective. So that's what I tried to cull from the resolution that I drafted. And I agree with the mayor on the educational perspective. I think that's very important. The reason that I've taken that one out is because it looked like we were going to be doing that in other jurisdictions. And I think that, to the mayor's point, every city is different. The issues posed by the elk in our urban is different depending on the city, and that our focus, while collaborating on some things, from an education perspective, is probably best served within our own community.
Thank you, Peter. Is there more discussion?
I feel comfortable with it.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 953, the Clatsop Plains Elk Collaborative Gerhardt Elk Plan.
I'll second it.
And just to clarify, this is the one on page 6 of the packet.
Right.
And
Mine
just to make,
was a loose page.
sorry to interrupt. And also just to clarify, as amended by Mayor Planikoffen.
Yeah, yes, and
As
further
amended by the mayor.
and further amended by Brent Warren.
I'll second that.
Is there more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? So that sounds like that was unanimous to me. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Manuel.
You're very welcome, Mayor Cockrum. It's been a real pleasure to be working with the City of Gearhart on this, and I just want to congratulate you on all the incredibly difficult and productive work that you've done over the last year and a half. I look forward to wrapping up this project with you in the next handful of weeks, and I just want to congratulate you again on a job well done. Thank you.
So Manuel, we'll get that final resolution back to you in the coming days. Sure that Chad will have that on his to-do.
Great. I'm happy to receive it, and I'm happy to make whatever changes that change in the resolution are necessary.
Thank you. And next we have resolution 954, supporting Degami resilience efforts in Gearhart. And this came to us from one of our Gearhart residents. And I believe that you'll, in the packet, you have the correspondence that came my way. But the bottom line on this is in Governor Brown's budget, the Oregon Department of Geology and Minerals has been defunded and merged with Department of Land Conservation and Development and the Department of Environmental Quality. Making some inquiries about this, we did find out that both, I believe, Tillamook and Clatsop County commissions had sent letters in support of renewing Degami's budget, and this is for the coming budget cycle. So it seemed like this might be something that we would want to do, and I believe in the resolution 954, it's been well written out how much the work we've had with Degami has been helpful in our emergency preparedness efforts. And so I think we're open to a motion if someone would like to make one, and we can discuss it further if we need to.
I would like to make a motion that we pass resolution 954 supporting Degami.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dan and a second by Carrie. Is there any further discussion?
Oop, I couldn't find my mic button there, sorry. I just wanted to make a few comments about it, and I fully understand how important Degami and their technical experts are to our state. But to not recognize the tremendous budget problem the governor and the legislature is facing may not be totally fair for us to do. And as somebody who's been through a number of mergers, I've been through 13 bank mergers in my career. Usually the people with the technical expertise are not the most powerful people in the system, and administrators are better at surviving mergers than the technical people. So it may be that taking a different approach, recognizing the budget crisis and saying that while it may be fiscally necessary to merge departments, that the cuts should be made at the senior administration level so the technical experts can be retained by the state. Because we've got to cut the budget, and we want to keep the people with the technical expertise that are providing us the direct services and knowledge, and not senior administrators who suck up most of the budget. So I don't know how you would craft that into this resolution, or if it needs to go back to the drawing board, but just to say don't merge it, don't lay anybody off, to me doesn't address the whole picture. Does that make sense?
I understand the point you're making, and I think it's a point well taken. I guess I look at, being a preparedness-minded person, I look at the role of Dagami and especially their experts as being really the ability to save lives and help guide us through some very difficult decision-making processes that all municipalities need to be going through at this point in our region. And without the help that they've given us and the help that I hope they would continue to give us in the future if they were still there, I think we would be worse off for it. So I understand budget constraints and having to make cuts. I just think this is a very foolish one for our state to be making. And so if they're not seeing it at the state level, maybe us bringing it to their attention might make them reconsider.
We could craft language that says that we understand the budget cuts. We understand the state's going to need to cut budget, and we would ask, to the extent that they were cutting budget from functions that normally performed by Dagami, that they prioritize retaining scientific methods and mapping in order to help the coastal communities. I think it sounds like, and they've been incredibly helpful to us. Obviously, we've done a ton of work on tsunamis, but we can add that language that we understand there may be cuts in the state that need to happen, but please don't cut scientists or scientific work. Yeah. So I can take the current one, and if that's kind of council consensus, I can take our current, I can craft a current declaration which would be along those lines.
I would be willing to go along with something that was crafted that was spoke to that matter, that we got rid of the upper management. I'm sorry, that we would prefer upper management being dismissed, and the scientists and the people that do the research are kept on. So if that was a consensus for the council, I would be willing to go along with it. I never thought about the budget being taken up by the drones of management, and that's a good point, Brent. I've never had to deal with that, and it's a different way of looking at it for me.
So
I would support that.
It would just, the motion will be to direct the city attorney to prepare a resolution for the mayor's signature, along the lines of what we just discussed, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what you need.
Right.
And Rita?
Well, I agree with all of that. I agree very much. I'd like to see our attorney craft it so that it doesn't offend anybody with the upper management, but I don't know how that's going to work out, but I agree with all of you.
Well, perhaps if the emphasis is on the technical side, the technical experts, that may be enough said. And I think we have a consensus.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I hear that Dan has tried to say something a couple of times.
Well, just because I made the original motion, I would like to amend my motion to ask the city attorney to draft an appropriate, now I've forgotten the correct term of what we're trying to do. Somebody please help me. It's
A response?
response isn't quite the word, but anyways, the document that our mayor would sign
Right.
on our behalf.
Resolution.
And I would
Your
second
resolution,
that
correct. Thank you.
amendment to the motion.
Okay, so we have consensus and we have an amended motion that will, that the attorney will write recognizing the budget constraints that the state has, but please ask that that Dagami is able to retain their technical experts moving forward. Something to that effect. So all those in favor say aye.
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 And those opposed? So that resolution 954 passed unanimously. And that's in the matter of supporting Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries as essential to the resilience efforts in the city of Gerhart.
Thank you for your input, Brent.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And there is nothing under old business. So we've got new business. Chad, do you want to go through some of these then?
Certainly, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mayor and Councillor. The next item on the agenda is new business, appoint a budget officer. So this is where the city shall, unless otherwise provided by charter, designate one person to serve as the budget officer. The officer or the person designated by charter and acting as a budget officer shall prepare, supervise the preparation of the budget document. The officer shall act under the direction of the executive officer of the city who, where no executive officer exists, under the direction of the governing body. Council has three options to make a motion that the city administrator be designated as the budget officer, make a motion that another person be designated, or do nothing, which is not much of an option actually, but we do need to do a budget.
I move that we name the city administrator to be the budget officer for the city of Gerhart.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Okay. We have a budget officer, Chad Sweet.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor and councilors.
So I'm going to give you
go
the
ahead.
next item. I'm going to give you the next item.
Which brings us to the budget calendar. So the Oregon Department of Revenue recommends that we prepare a budget calendar that maps out all the steps that must occur legally to adopt the budget and allows us to plan for enough time to adopt the budget by June 30th. We've scheduled all notices and meetings to accommodate the council's request to not adopt the budget by using emergency clause, and additionally, the budget will be approved via resolution instead of adopting through ordinance. The three options are make a motion to approve the calendar, make changes to the calendar and approve as amended, or do nothing. And the staff does recommend that the council approve the calendar using resolutions versus ordinances to approve the budget, which will save time. Ordinances require a meeting to read once by title only and an additional meeting for the second title only. Both meetings will have to be held prior to June 1st to ensure the ordinances will take effect 30 days prior to the new fiscal year, July 1. Adopting by resolution happens only with one meeting and takes effect immediately.
Chad, I have a question for you. Is our budget going to be about the same as it was last year, or is this COVID thing going to decrease our funds?
Whoop, you're muted, Chad.
Thanks, Brent. Appreciate that. I do that once every meeting, so I'm glad I got that out of the way. Yes, the budget's going to be similar. I don't forecast many revenue shortfalls from any of our revenues. Things have been pretty steady. We spent a little bit extra money this year than we have the years prior, but I think we're going to be in line, and it should be pretty good.
What about the state revenue sharing funds? Will that be approximately the same as it was last year?
Yes, it will. I believe so.
Right.
You know, it may be down a small percentage, but for the amount that we get, it will not add up to a lot.
Okay,
So
thanks.
what I'm hearing is that the lottery funds will be, as a percentage, will be down, but alcohol tax revenue as well as marijuana tax revenue are both up somewhat significantly. And then the transient lodging tax, I think, you know, we missed a little bit, but then that I suspect has kicked back up. So I think overall it's going to net out for us. It's going to net out about the same, if not slightly more, because we have less like video poker than other towns, but we do the other taxes seem to be coming up pretty high.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget calendar for the fiscal year 21-22.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving or adopting the budget calendar, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Was there opposition? Okay, so that motion approved 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
And Chad, go ahead. Can you walk us through the next one, the OLCC license renewals?
Certainly, Mayor. So the businesses, the renewals for OLCC licenses locally, we've attached the list to the report for the liquor license in Gearhart that are eligible for renewal effective 3/31/21. The ordinance establishes the process for local governments to make recommendations to OLCC. So the options are to provide a written recommendation to OLCC on these licenses, make a written request for additional time to investigate specific renewal or renewals, or take no action. And if we did the take no action on this after March 10th, OLCC will process the renewal application.
Dan's not there. See everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's my report.
Okay. Is there a motion to
Before we have a motion, can I ask a question? Is there any knowledge of any of the businesses by you, Chad, or the police department that would warrant not supporting the renewal?
Thank you, Councilor Warren. Not to my knowledge, there isn't. If they're on this list, they haven't gotten to the point with OLCC to where they're recommending suspending or canceling a license. And I don't have any information from Jeff on this, but he, I believe, saw this report, didn't have any concerns.
Then I would make a motion that we
Like, I realize that
approve.
the,
Okay, I think Dan has the floor.
So I would make a, I guess a motion that we recommend that that OLCC allows the licenses to be issued again for next year.
So option number 1.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the city providing a written renewal recommendation for all of the businesses to the OLCC? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And those opposed? That action passes, and so we will send a letter saying we have we recommend renewal to all of the businesses on the attached list. Excuse me. Okay, next we have the county multi-jurisdictional national hazard mitigation plan. Final draft for 2021. And Carol did a big part of this. We also had this covered in our work session a few weeks ago. Most of the work was done on the table that I think is, well, it's in the packet. I'm not going to say where it is, but Carol, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
And yes, I will. Just a minute there. So what you have in front of you, and if you would like to talk details, we might want to put it on the screen, but we may not need to, is a compilation that the county put together of all the Gearhart sections in this 450-page natural hazard mitigation plan for all the jurisdictions. So much of what you see in this, I think it's about 42 pages on Gearhart, are pieces that are inserted throughout that document, depending on the topic. And so Gearhart's characteristics, its accomplishments, which I think are noteworthy, that Gearhart's really ahead of all the other cities in terms of primarily tsunami hazard planning, and that has to do with our overlay zone, which you adopted now a couple of years ago. It answers so many concerns that are raised by these disasters. And so then you'll see a number of Dogami tables, which are very critical for this report. And they are scattered in different sections, which end up being an evaluation of how Gearhart will be affected in terms of structures that will be destroyed or people's lives that will be lost for the categories of erosion, drought, earthquake, flood, landslide, tsunami, volcanic ashfall, wildfire, wind, and storms. And so if you want to really dig down and look at that Dogami data, it is the premise for how we rate ourselves for each one of those disasters. And then as we rate ourselves, our vulnerability, we turn to the mitigation actions. And that's where I took your advice from the last time we talked about this, and indeed found lots of redundancies in those hazard descriptions that I was able to cut about 1/3 of them out and consolidate them into just being a little more succinct and less redundant in terms of how they describe these hazards and how the city is going to manage them. And that was one big change based on our last discussion. Also really beefed up the kinds of actions that we either will take or are interested in taking in the future. And that's with a timeline and a priority. And I don't suppose anybody has that page number in front of them, do they? What the mitigation actions table, just in case you, do you have it there, Chad? I see you
It's
nodding.
page 270.
270.
270?
actually- In this document, it's page 44 to 74, and the bottom
Yeah.
is page 2.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, because the what you got from Pam Weber was the consolidated Gearhart, and to be 44, page 44. But since you all seem to be following along just fine with me on this, I won't bother with that anymore. And so I don't know how you would like to talk about any of this, if you feel comfortable with what we've presented. We would, the next step is to come back to you in March with a resolution saying that the city accepts this plan. We're not adopting or amending anything. We're accepting the plan. And, you know, it was my hope that we pull out this mitigation table and keep it an active document because there are a lot of things that we can still do to address these hazards. Does anybody have any comments on basically that mitigation actions section or any errors that you might see?
I wonder about drought being a low priority. I feel like it should be a little higher because we're already starting to have discussions about water usage in the summertime.
Definitely. Water conservation to me, I think have felt all along needs to have a higher priority here. And I started tinkering with these low, medium, high, and was basically told that I really can't do that, or we can't do that because those are based on the Dogami data that supports the designation. Yeah, because some of them seemed, you know, just from a practical point of view, didn't seem right. But then you look at the data, which has to do with lost structures and lost life from drought, and it probably is pretty low.
Right.
It's water conservation, though. I did put a section in there, I think, on drought that said implement a water conservation plan to ensure adequate water supply. That's a new action item that I added.
Okay.
And I had the
Carol?
same, yeah.
But some of this, it makes sense, and some of it, for me, you can't mess with the low, medium, and high. But if you go to wildfire and you look under the Dagami report, it says generally Gerhardt is a low risk for a wildfire event due to high coastal humidity, and we have a high here. And what Dagami says is we may lose 2 buildings and displace 1 resident. So I don't see how that can be a high. I mean, really, what is the threshold? If we displace 1 person, it's a high risk, or we lose 2 houses or 2 buildings, not even houses, that makes it a high risk. So there are some things in here I think that could be tweaked, but overall, I like it.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, that's what happened to me. I started looking at their rating, but then I looked back. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the wildfire is a low. Right next to it is wind and winter storm, which both start with W.
I know, but my paper shows it as an H. Okay, and of course I'm looking at page 265, which is not the same document apparently that you're looking at.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Page 39 of the packet has landslide at medium, tsunami at high, volcanic asphalt at low, and wildfire at high, and then winter storm at high. So I don't know if that was just, I mean, I tend to agree with everyone else's analysis.
Yeah,
that seems like substantially less. I mean, we had a scientist that claimed there couldn't be a fire. I don't know that I agreed with him, but
I can speak to that a little bit, Carol, if you'd like.
yeah, I need to go back and double check that because that's not right. You caught it, Carrie. If it only says 1, which is in the text, which I'm pretty sure I wrote, 2 exposed buildings and 1 potentially displaced residents doesn't make it a high. So I will double check that one.
Okay.
Dan, do you have any comments?
I have none.
Brent? Go ahead, Rita.
I just want to say that Carol's done a lot of work.
Comprehensive report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good. Well, it took a lot of time to sort it out, but I just hope this big, huge document doesn't sit on a shelf forever.
Right. Well, I agree that the 3 or 4 page graphic is something we want to come back to. And, if we decide we need to conserve water, even though this says it's a low priority, I don't think there's anybody who says we can't do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think our comprehensive plan might even say it in the underwater public facility. Always a smart idea.
Right.
Thank you. If we'll leave it at that, next month you'll see a resolution accepting it, not adopting it.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol, for your work also. And after we adopt this by resolution, we will bring those tables to a goal setting session for the city so that we remain diligent on moving some of these items forward.
I suppose we could move it to our 5th Tuesday work session for a little brief talk, give it 10 or 15 minutes and actually maybe do something.
I think that was the mayor's intention on that. And we were just waiting to get things scheduled up with the calendar and to get through this process, but yes.
That sounds good. The final item under new business is the city administrator review. If you recall, the Chad's review is to be done in conjunction with the budget cycle. Last year we missed that opportunity, so we did an extensive review in the fall. We had a 2.5-hour executive session. There was we had all filled out a form. We collated the form. We went over it in a great amount of detail, and Chad got a lot of feedback and some goals were set. But now we want to tie that up and get back on track with this annual review. And in the packet is the review document that we've used a couple times now. And we can fill out the whole document, but I wanted to just run it by you in terms of, we did that extensive review 6 months or so ago. Do we want to focus our review on just the first set of bullet points, the council goals and objectives? And there are only 2 there, providing the city council with clear report of progress on approved council goals and effectively implement policies and programs approved by the city council. I just want to get some feedback on that, or if you all would rather, we can do the entire evaluation.
So are you saying you just want to do A and B under council goals and objectives?
That's what I was thinking, just try and put some really good feedback in those areas.
Does this come in electronic form, or is paper form the only way that we're going to get it?
I have it as a Word document.
Okay, all right.
Others, thoughts?
I have no problem with a reduced review.
And, you know, I would say if someone really wants to put a comment in another place, you know, great, go ahead and do it. Provide those examples or comments. Anytime we can give Chad examples, that's really helpful for his own growth. Grant? Brent, do you have any comments?
I can go either way on the review. Since I haven't been involved in the review process, maybe I'll do a more extensive one, since you all have had the opportunity to give feedback before. If that's okay.
That sounds excellent. And
Yeah,
Carrie?
Oh, go ahead.
You asked me?
Yeah.
I would be willing to do an AB review.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Rita?
I would too, and I also like the option to add other things down the line if we see we want to say something, but we don't necessarily have to fill it out. So I totally agree with the reduced version.
So I will send this out to you all electronic. It'll just be a Word document. And
Thank
then if you want to get those back to me, I believe our process is that Carrie and I will meet in 20 days. And we will collate the information, and then we'll have that ready for our executive session prior to the March City Council meeting.
Sounds good to me.
I don't think we have to take action on this, do we?
Nah.
No.
Nah. Okay, page 2 of the agenda. We're getting there. This is our special visitors feedback line item. And so if there are any visitors on the line that want to give us feedback on the meeting, just give us your name and your address, and do they need to email you, Chad, or shall I just call out everybody's name?
Yeah, calling out the name works pretty well. That would be good. Email might take a little bit of time, and I'm just checking, and I don't have anybody here that's emailed us.
So the first name I see is Darcy. And next I see Tom Thies. So if I call your name and you want to speak, go ahead and unmute. Next is Chris Bell. And Claire McIntyre. And I don't see anybody's going to green. So Harold Gable. And Chad, I am not seeing the callers. So is there
Caller
any?
03.
Yeah, we have caller 03, and that would be all the people that you had recommended or named.
Okay. So I don't see that anybody wants to give us any feedback this evening. Council concerns. Dan Jesse?
I have none.
Brent?
I had a question. I saw an email that came through a few days ago from Bob Morey regarding the school property. And during the tour that I got a week or two ago, we had discussed about the city renting the ball field, the play field for $1 a year. And he said, well, it has to be fenced. And his fence guy was right there. So he was going to submit a bid for putting in a fence along the east edge of the parking lot. And in order for us to insure the property from a liability standpoint, we have to have an insurable interest, which would mean a lease of a specific hunk of the property. And apparently the bid came through, and somebody at the city said that the city was not interested in putting in a fence. So I did just concerned that we didn't bring that to the city council to discuss prior to making a decision on that.
I'm not aware of that correspondence.
Okay, yeah, I think I can talk a little bit about that if you like.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I noticed I'm going to have to dig down on the bid a little bit more for the fence. But I do believe the conversation was between the fence person and our public works director in regards to some of the details about the fence. And I think the public works director came off as not being interested at this time, but he wasn't speaking for the city, or shouldn't have been. So if that's something that you'd like us to dig up and talk about, potential changes to that fence and what it would cost, I'd be happy to put that on the next month's agenda.
I think it would be a good idea for us to discuss that, because the people of Gerhardt clearly want to have that field available for kids to play in sooner rather than later. And if we can do anything to expedite that, I think it would be a good thing. So yes, let's put it on the agenda.
Be happy to, Council.
And it might be a good idea to contact Mr. Maury and let him know that our Public Works Director wasn't speaking on behalf of the city in that response.
Will do.
Thank you, Brent.
And that's it. That's my only concern.
And Rita?
Well, my question is also about Mr. Maury. Excuse me. I know that he wanted to put a caretaker to live on the property, and I think he applied for a permit. Chad, do you know if that went through or if his caretaker is living there?
I have not seen any permits on that. Carol Connell, if you wouldn't mind speaking up, and I'm just going to look that up here in our reference.
No, he's, if I may jump in, I've heard that he wants to do that. It requires a conditional use permit application for the zone that it's in, and that goes before the planning commission. And it's an official, application that requires findings and a fee and notice to all the neighbors 20 days before a hearing and a public hearing. And no, nothing has been submitted for that.
All right, thank you.
Anything else then, Rita? And Carrie?
Well, I have a concern in that I noticed we've got a couple of street lights out, and I would like to see what it would cost to start turning us over to LEDs, since we're, I believe, a Blue Star Energy City. I believe that's the award or the decal on our door. But along with that, in my driving around, I noticed there's 2 street lights in the parking lot of the school. And I was curious as to, are they on our dime? Are we paying for those? Because they come off of the light on Pacific Way, and I don't see a meter off of either one of them. So if it's coming off of our dime, perhaps we need to disconnect and remove our lights and move them somewhere else in the city. I know that sounds petty, but at $3,000 a month or $2,500 a month for electricity, it's a dead zone basically now, and we don't need to illuminate that. If it's our lights. That's my concern.
Jerry, that was a good observation. I'll check and take a look at what the billing is on those 2 lights, and then we'll also consider that as part of this park and fence discussion that we'll have next month.
Okay.
And in regards to the street lights that are out, if you could give me the location, I'll go ahead and report those to PP&L. And for anybody else that's listening, there is a great website with PP&L where you can report a street light by either giving it the pole number that's on the street light or giving a general location, and then they'll find it. And they usually quite quickly make those repairs. The other item that you brought up, Carrie, is about the LED lights. The LED lights do save electricity, but in the past, and we will need to clarify, it doesn't save the city any money because the rates are based on the maintenance of the pole and the system. But it is better for the environment if we used LED rather than sodium high pressure. There
Well,
also
I
may-
know I know they pay for themselves in 7 years. That's according to my notes.
We'll have to get some more information on that.
They're really, really bright though.
Yes, they are bright.
I hate to whine, but I got one right outside my bedroom window.
They can put a screen on it for you.
I'll ask PPL for more information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was probably a conflict of interest, but. Okay, is there any further business? We're gonna adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
All right. Hey, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, visitors.
You're
for
welcome.
Stay
Great
well.
meeting. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, all.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.